Just because you only have a few points doesn't mean that you can't take a cool trip. In today's tutorials, we're covering 10 ways to use your points and miles, even if you only have 10,000 points or less for the flight. So let's jump right in. Okay, the first type of flight that you can get is with JetBlue. Anything that's under $125 is going to cost you 10,000 points or less. And that's because JetBlue is a revenue-based airline where the points price of a ticket is directly correlated with the cash price of a ticket. So for here, I did a search between New York and Fort Lauderdale in July. Some of the ticket prices are under $125, like this first one, which is $119. Some of them are going to be more than $125. For example, these later ones are going to be $144 each. If we instead convert these into points, we can see that top one that was $119 cost 9,400 points, and the one that cost $144 cost 11.6 thousand points. JetBlue makes it really easy to calculate the ratio that they use. It's about 1.25 cents per point. So therefore, if you've got a budget of about 10,000 points, then finding any flight on JetBlue that costs $125 or less will fit into that points budget. Another revenue-based airline is Southwest, where the points price of a ticket once again correlates exactly to the cash price of a ticket. Here I looked up some flights between Austin, Texas to Kansas City, Missouri, which have a range of different prices from $77, $134, $193, $203. And if you have a budget of 10,000 points, then the magic number you're going to be looking for is right around this $145 mark. Because if we switch this over to points, keeping a look at December 10, that is right at that 10,000 point mark, $99.66, whereas anything that was a cheaper price is going to be below that, and anything that is a higher price is going to be above the 10,000 point mark. So right here we have $150 on the 17th. We convert that into points. That is going to be right over the 10,000 point mark. So your sweet spot with Southwest is going to be around $145 to $150 for your 10,000 point budget. With Southwest, it is currently Companion Pass season. We did a whole video about how to get Companion Pass plus get some other sweet spots with Southwest in last week's video linked here. But with Southwest Companion Pass, you can designate a companion to fly with you pretty much for free. You just have to pay their taxes and fees. Anytime you are on a Southwest ticket, whether it is a points ticket or a paid ticket, you can bring along a companion and only need to pay their taxes and fees, which is usually about $5.60 for domestic flights. So if you have a budget of 10,000 points, you could find a flight that is around $145, book that for yourself, and then also bring along a companion for free. You only have to pay $5.60 for them to come join, which is a fantastic deal if you are looking into getting buy one, get one free flights for you and a companion with Southwest all the way through the end of 2025. Definitely check out last week's video for all of the different sweet spots with Southwest. If you're new to points, JetBlue and Southwest are great airlines to start with since they're so easy to use. Also, if you're a beginner, we offer a free Points and Miles 101 course for you to help you earn and redeem points for your first redemption. The course covers everything that you need to know in order to earn points and get your first flight covered. Grab the free course at geobreezetravel.com/free course, or check out the link in the description box. Up next, we have a couple of tutorials for how to find all of the different destinations that you can fly to if you have a set budget with either American Airlines or Air Canada. And keep in mind, you can transfer almost any flexible currency over to Air Canada. Chase, Amex, Capital One, and Bilt all transfer there. So here's the play. Not all airlines will base their points price of a ticket directly off of the cash price of a ticket. For example, American Airlines uses a more dynamic pricing model where the price of their tickets might fluctuate based off of supply and demand. That can make it a little bit tricky to predict how much a points flight is going to cost on an American Airlines flight. But luckily, if you just have a budget of, say, 10,000 points, it can be really easy to find all of the flights that fit within your budget. All you need to do is search for AA Award Map on Google, click on the first link, and you should be taken to a page that looks like this. From here, all you would need to do is enter in your home airport, so let's say Philadelphia for this example, and let's say that you wanted to go on a vacation to Mexico or the Caribbean. Just one way for your 10,000 point budget, departure date, sometime next October, and you've got 10,000 miles that you want to use. Once you've loaded in all of your parameters, you can just go ahead and click search, and this will show you all of the different destinations that you can fly on the date that you want in the region that you want from your home airport within your points budget. And so you can see you could go to Bermuda for 10,000 points, or Mexico, in Cancun, Cozumel, Bahamas, Grand Cayman, Grenada. So it's just an easy way to see all of the places that are within your budget, and it'll also show you some places that are not within your budget, because this will show you that St. Croix is going to cost 11.5 thousand miles, so it's just outside of your budget. But this is a quick trick that you can use with American Airlines to easily see all of the different flights that you can take within a points budget, especially if you are looking to use up your American Airlines miles sometime soon. Instead of basing the points price off of the cash flights or supply and demand, some airlines have a set rewards chart where they will base the points price off of distance or zones that you're crossing or something like that. Air Canada is one of those airlines. We have an entire video on taking advantage of the Air Canada pricing sweet spots. But if you're interested in learning more about how they price out stuff in their reward chart, all you have to do is Google Air Canada award chart, click on this first link, and you will be taken to this very, very handy PDF. So Air Canada bases their points pricing off of different travel zones and how many zones you're crossing versus if you're traveling within a particular zone, and also how far you are traveling between your two distances. So for example, if you are traveling within North America, if you're flying within a 1,500 mile radius on an economy flight operated by a partner airline like United, it's only going to cost 10,000 points. The easiest way to find all of the different cities within that 1,500 mile radius is to go to greatcirclemapper.com, and under ranges, all you need to do is say 1,500 mi at, and then whatever your airport code is. So here we are using Omaha, Nebraska as an example. Now once you click draw map, it's going to show you everything that's in a 1,500 mile radius of Omaha, which if you wanted to fly basically anywhere in the continental United States and most of Canada and a lot of Mexico, you are good to go from Omaha. It should only cost 10,000 points with Air Canada based on their award chart. So to test this, I ran a quick search between Omaha and San Francisco, since San Francisco is still within this 1,500 mile radius of Omaha. And here we do see that it is 10,000 points, as expected from the award chart. Now, this is if you're doing a direct flight, because the total distance there is less than 1,500 miles. However, we have this other route that goes from Omaha over to Denver, over to SNA, all the way up to San Francisco. This is going to kick you up into the next level, which costs 12.5 thousand miles, because it is more than 1,500 miles. And the way we can check that is if you click on paths and check that route, which is Omaha, Denver, SNA, SFO, and then click draw map. That would be a pretty annoying flight path anyway, and it would total 1,690 miles, which is why it goes into this level of the award chart, and it's going to cost you a few more points and a lot more time to take this particular flight path. So if you have a budget of 10,000 points with Air Canada, you can figure out how far you can fly based off of this award chart, and you can look at it for North America between different zones, North America and Pacific, or within the Atlantic zone, within the Pacific zone. They have all of these different combinations, but if you're looking to do this with United on a domestic flight, anything within 1,500 miles will work great. And if you are in the Midwest, that means you can fly pretty much anywhere in the United States within that radius. Are you enjoying these types of step-by-step tutorials? If yes, please let me know. Click that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for even more points and miles tips every week. We release a weekly video with these types of step-by-step tutorials, and we also have a podcast where I interview points and miles experts about their different strategies every week. If you're looking to do some country hopping in Europe, it can be really, really cheap to do so. Here are some flights that you can book with Air France and Virgin Atlantic for less than 10,000 points each. If you're looking to do some country hopping around Europe, I highly recommend checking out Air France or KLM Flying Blue. Pretty much all of the flexible rewards points transfer there, Chase, Amex, Citi, Capital One, and Bilt, all transfer to Air France and KLM. And they also have these monthly promotional fares. So all you have to do is Google Air France promotional points flights, click on this first link. And once you land on this page, you are going to find a ton of different flights that are on sale, especially for short haul within Europe, where you could fly between Amsterdam and Dublin, or Florence, Krakow, Poland, Madrid, all of these for just a little over 5,000 points, which means you can almost do a round trip for a 10,000 point budget, hopping between different cities in Europe. For longer haul flights between the Europe and the United States, that will cost a little bit more than the 10,000 point budget. Those usually will start at about 15,000 points in economy. Another way that you can find all of the different flights that you can take for 10,000 points or less with Air France KLM Flying Blue is to go to seats.aero. So all you have to do here is go to the homepage seats.aero. Then from here, click on Explore Air France KLM Flying Blue. And then I would say search for flights from Europe to anywhere. Now, you're not going to be able to find any business class flights for 10,000 points or less, but there are plenty of economy flights where you can do a round trip between 2 European cities for 10,000 points. And you can go a really, really long way with this. Like, for example, let's say that you wanted to fly between Amsterdam and Istanbul in January. There are lots of different dates that you can do. So you can fly across the entire continent of Europe and all the way back for that 10,000 point budget. With seats.aero, if you do end up purchasing the Pro version, you can see availability for the entire year, but you don't actually need to do that with Air France and KLM because their own website makes this really easy. All you have to do is go to either Air France's website or KLM's website, click on Book with Miles. Let's say that we want to do one way between Amsterdam and Istanbul. You can just leave the departure date blank, and then let's say we're searching for one adult in economy for now and search flights, and it'll actually show you the entire award availability calendar and which months have this type of availability where it's only going to cost 5,000 points to fly from Amsterdam to Istanbul. And then you can just repeat the exact same search between Istanbul and Amsterdam. But it looks like currently there are quite a few dates where you can fly between these two cities for only 5,000 points in January through April. And there are a lot of different combinations that you can find on seats.aero as well. You can fly between Amsterdam and pretty much anywhere for 5,000 points, it seems like, in the upcoming months, whether it is Venice or Istanbul, Bologna, Italy, Milan. There are tons of different options, and Air France KLM is a great way to make a lot of use out of a budget of 10,000 points or less. So I mentioned that you wouldn't be able to find business class for less than 10,000 points if you are searching with Air France or KLM, but there is actually a way around this. Air France KLM Flying Blue is part of SkyTeam, and Virgin Atlantic is as well. You could go to seats.aero, explore Virgin Atlantic, and show flights from Europe to anywhere. Show a full year of availability. And if you search for flights from Amsterdam in business class, you actually can find some flights that are also operated by KLM, and it's only going to be 8,000 points between Amsterdam and Frankfurt or some other cities like Southampton. Now, that sounds really exciting, but intra-Europe business class is actually just economy most of the time with the middle seat blocked off, so it's actually not that exciting. I would much rather just pay for a round-trip economy flight in this instance, but it's totally up to you. If you want to say that you flew business class for 8,000 points, you can absolutely do that. All you would need to do is go to virginatlantic.com, search between Amsterdam and Frankfurt, one way for the date that you find on seats.aero. Always make sure to click advanced search and search with points. Here, let's just do economy and go ahead and click go. And here we do see that flight. It's operated by KLM Cityhopper, where you can fly economy for 4,000 points, plus 64 euros in taxes and fees, or you can fly business class for 8,000 points, plus pretty much the same taxes and fees if you wanted to do that. So this is how you can fly KLM for a little bit cheaper than even what is shown on KLM and Air France Flying Blue's own website.
Air France and Virgin Atlantic are two of my favorite airlines for booking flights in and around Europe, since both of them are transfer partners with all 5 of the major flexible points currencies: Chase, Amex, Citi, Capital One, and Bilt.
That way, you can pool points from all of these different programs into Air France or Virgin Atlantic to get these great redemptions. If you're not sure what card to get in order to earn these types of flexible points, we offer free credit card consultations at geobreezetravel.com/consultations. We'll send you personalized recommendations based on your particular goals, budget, and lifestyle. So what if you want to do some quick hops around Asia or Africa instead of Europe? Those tutorials are coming up next. If you want to do some country hopping around Asia and you've got a budget of about 10,000 points to burn with either Chase, Amex, Citi, or Capital One, I highly recommend checking out the Singapore Airlines KrisFlyer Spontaneous Escapes. All you need to do is Google Singapore Airlines Spontaneous Escapes and then click on this first link. Every month, they release some different last-minute deals, and then you'll be able to find a lot of different deals, both in business and economy class, which would cost way less than they normally cost with Singapore Airlines. So, for example, if you have about 10,000 points to work with, that is almost a round trip between Singapore and Bali with this 30% redemption discount. There aren't currently any flights that you can get in business class for less than 10,000 points, but if you wanted to do Singapore over to Jakarta, that is less than 15,000 points that you could transfer over. But let's say that you like this deal where you could fly between Singapore and Bali for less than 6,000 points. Keep in mind, this does only work for certain time frames. For example, this one, I'm recording this at the end of November, so you would need to book through Singapore Airlines before the end of November for travel in December. This is going to be released after November ends, so at that point, just make sure that you check the KrisFlyer Spontaneous Escapes page again because it's going to be refreshed with new deals and new destinations for December. But for this example, let's say that we wanted to go between Singapore and Bali, keeping these different blackout periods in mind. We would go to singaporeair.com and then click on Redeem Flights from Singapore to DPS, which is the airport code for Bali. Let's say around December 4th, just one way for now, in economy, and go ahead and click search. Here we can see some of that promotional fare pricing between Singapore and Bali for less than 6,000 points for this 2.5-hour flight, either on December 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th. And we can just choose this one, which is available for this particular date, or we could explore some other dates as well and see where they still have these flights available. They do sell out quite a bit because these are pretty popular. Plus, they will note on the Spontaneous Escapes promotion page which flight numbers these are valid on. So this one would be available 3 different flights. This one is only on 1 flight. I find it's just easier to do the search on Singapore Airlines and then see what times they have the promotional fare available. If you want to do some hopping around Morocco and have a budget of 10,000 American Airlines miles, you can fly between Casablanca and Marrakesh, either round trip in economy or one-way in business class. It's only about an hour flight. It's super short, but it is a pretty fun use of points. You'd be traveling either on Royal Air Morac or Royal Air Morac Express. If you can get on the Royal Air Morac, which is on the Boeing 737, highly would recommend that more than this tiny little express plane. If we search for these plane models on Aerolopa, here is the Boeing 737. It's a 2-2 configuration, and economy would be a 3-3 configuration. Here's some photos of the interior for that one as well. So it looks like some cushy recliner seats, not a lay flat seat, but it's only a 1-hour flight anyway. So this is not bad at all for a 1-hour flight. If you do end up on the Royal Air Morac Express, it's just gonna be a 2-2 everywhere. It's probably not as nice of a flight. So if you did wanna do the business class one, you could go for the Royal Air Morac full flight on the 737, or since it's just a 1-hour flight anyway, if you wanted to do this round trip, you could hop between Marrakesh and Casablanca for 10,000 points in economy with Royal Air Morac that way as well. We have 2 more amazing ways to use less than 10,000 points for great redemptions, and we definitely saved the best for last. We're talking about getting huge suites and more than 10 cents per point, or flying to Hawaii for less than 10,000 points. If you're looking for even more next level ways to make the most out of your points, we have a couple of options for you. The first way is through the GeoBreeze Travel Patreon, which you can access through patreon.com/geobreezetravel. Through the Patreon, we can prepare personalized step-by-step tutorials based on the exact routes that you want to see. We also host a live group coaching session every month. You can ask any questions that you have about points, travel, or anything else in the open forum group coaching. And we also have a lot of people who join the $5 level just to say, thank you for the free content. And I am all here for that. Thank you, I appreciate it so much. And the second option is for business owners or individuals who spend more than $100,000 a year on expenses. If that's you, we would love to chat with you about our points portfolio management offer. I don't know if you know, but you can get some incredible luxury travel with that level of spend. Book a free intro chat with us at geobreezetravel.com/intro call to learn more. Okay, here are our last 2 tutorials for sweet spots under 10,000 points.
If you have a budget of 10,000 Hyatt or Chase or Bilt points, which will transfer over to Hyatt, you can use that to get yourself some pretty amazing suite upgrades, and you don't have to have status or anything else like that. Here's the play. So let's say that you wanted to go to Orlando and that you are staying at a hotel like the Hyatt Regency Orlando. This isn't a bad redemption for a standard night where you could spend 18,000 points or $461, but you can actually get a lot more out of your points by using this for a suite upgrade. Let's look at the rates for this hotel. So over here on the suites, you could get this presidential suite for 36,000 points, which is huge. It's up to 2,000 square feet. That is much larger than my apartment. Or if you wanted to pay cash for this room, the cash price for that same room would be a whopping $1,700 per night, which is pretty steep. However, if we are using points, 36,000 points versus $1,747 is 4.8 cents per point, which is pretty good, but keep in mind we have a budget of 10,000 points, so how would we use it to get this suite? You click on select and book. You could pay 36,000 points for this premium suite night, or you could pay $544 plus 9,000 points. So this trick does involve doing a blend of cash plus points where you do need to pay $544, but you would be getting a $1,747 room for $544 plus 9,000 points, which comes out to a value of 13.4 cents per point, which is really, really high. And it's a much easier type of redemption to do versus trying to find business class availability or something, because it's pretty hard to get more than 10 cents per point using your points on flights if you only have a budget of about 10,000 points to work with. So if you have a small points budget and you're willing to do a blend of cash plus points, this is a way to make your Hyatt points go really, really far and get yourself into some amazing premium suites as well. One of the favorite ways to make the most out of your points if you have 10,000 or fewer points with Citi, Capital One, or Bilt would be to transfer them over to Turkish Airlines Miles and Smiles, because with that you can fly anywhere in the US, including Alaska or Hawaii, for 7,500 points in economy on a United flight. Now this can be a little bit tricky, so here's the play. Let's search for example, Chicago to Denver next October in economy and find flights. And then when the calendar pops up, you're looking for anywhere where there's green and it's going to say saver space. So you can click on pretty much any date. Again, do not log into United or else it'll show you some availability that won't be available with its partner airlines like Turkish. You're going to be looking for direct flights. So here's a direct between Chicago and Denver, and it is marked with Saver Award Space. If you see both those things, then what you should do next is go over to turkishairlines.com. You're going to need to make a login with Turkish. They're a little bit tricky about this, where your password has to be 8 digits only. You can't have repeating digits. You can't have sequential digits. It's a process. But once you have an account set up, then what you need to do is click here where it says award ticket, buy a ticket with miles. Don't just start searching here. This is going to give you cash prices. So go ahead and click on award ticket. And then from here, you're going to click on Star Award Ticket. If you stay on this tab with Award Ticket, it's just going to look for flights with Turkish Airlines, and Turkish Airlines does not operate any flights between Chicago and Denver. You want to look at Star Award flights so that it can also find United flights. So once you've selected Star Award Ticket, you're going to do your search from Chicago over to Denver. using the dates that you found on United where there is saver space for the direct flight. So for us, that was October 16. Go ahead and click OK, and then click Go. And so you'll see not every flight has this available, but where it is available, it's only going to cost you 7,500 points to fly this with Turkish Airlines instead of the 12.7 thousand that it would cost for the same flight with United. Now, there's some really great sweet spots here because you would be able to do this not just in the continental US, but also with Hawaii. But here's the thing. Let's say we wanted to search from Chicago over to Honolulu the end of October. So here we do have some saver space, but it's not going to be on the direct flight between Chicago and Honolulu. That is not a saver space. That still costs 45,000 points. So if we did this search where we're like, well, there's saver space, let's just search for Chicago over to Honolulu on the 23rd, this is what's going to happen. They're not going to have any flights available on the date and route that you've selected. But over here that we see, it goes through LAX on that same date. So LAX to Honolulu would still probably be a saver award flight and is available on that date. So if you're flexible with this, you could instead search for LAX over to Honolulu for that same date. And so here we are able to find some flights between Los Angeles and Honolulu where it would be direct and only 7,500 miles. And this would work if you were able to find some qualifying saver space all the way from the East Coast as well. This is harder to do from the East Coast, obviously, than from the West Coast, flying over to Hawaii or Alaska. It doesn't always have to be a direct flight because here there's the option to do the 7,500 miles as well, where you're going from LAX through San Francisco over to Hawaii. So it doesn't always have to be a direct flight. It just makes it a lot easier to find some award space. But if, for example, there was something that still qualified with Chicago to LA over to Honolulu on a different date, you would still be able to get that for 7,500 miles. It's just that this is such a good deal, especially from the East Coast, that award space tends to dry up pretty quickly. But if you can book this sweet spot with Turkish Miles and Smiles, consider yourself a points and miles champion.
I hope you found those tutorials useful. Suggestions for future topics are always welcome. In the meantime, if you enjoyed these tutorials, I think you'll enjoy this video next.